ready to explore someplace new. Today we're off to Cusco, Peru. And, this isn't just any city. Cusco, get this, was seen as the navel of the world by the Inca.
The very center, their spiritual and historical heart.
Exactly. We're diving deep into this lecture about Cusco, and honestly, it's like traveling back in time.
It's a place where myths are woven into the city's foundation.
Right. Like, take the origin stories. I was fascinated by those.
Yeah, there are two main ones, both really emphasizing this idea of divine intervention.
Yeah, so the first one is all about Inti, the sun god. Imagine this. He gives this golden rod to a couple, tells them, find the spot where this sinks into the earth. And boom, that spot becomes Cusco.
Talk about a sign. It really highlights how much the Inca believed in a destiny, a purpose, chosen by higher powers.
Okay, but then you have the second story, and this one's even more dramatic. So it involves Viracocha, the creator god. He sends out these four brothers to basically find the perfect spot to build a city.
And get this, one of them actually transforms into a stone marker, like a permanent sign right there. Wow.
It's amazing how both of these stories, even though they're different, link Cusco's existence to something bigger, like a higher power.
It's like the universal human need to connect our world to something bigger. You see it everywhere.
Oh, absolutely. Think about ancient Rome, founded by Romulus and Remus, guided by, what else, divine intervention, or even the Garden of Eden.
Right. It's like we're hardwired to look for that connection between the world around us and something beyond.
And for the Inca, that connection was deeply rooted in nature. They had this concept of apu.
Apu. Now, you might not be familiar with that term, but think of mountains. But not just mountains. These are sacred, living beings, almost like deities.
Very similar to the Japanese kami, the spirits residing in nature, like Mount Fuji, for example. The Inca believed these apu, they were more than just, geographical features. They were alive with spiritual energy. And each mountain, each apu, it played a very specific role in their whole understanding of the cosmos.
So it's like the mountains themselves created a physical representation of their whole cosmology, right?
Exactly.
The lecture mentioned how the gods, they were up at the peaks. Humans, we were on the slopes. And then the underworld, that was down below.
And you see this deep reverence for nature, this interconnectedness of the physical and spiritual, reflected in their architecture as well. A perfect example is the technique they use called cellaria.
Yeah, that's where they cut these stones so precisely they fit together perfectly. No mortar.
It's incredible.
Like, how did they even do that?
It's mind-boggling. But cellaria, it wasn't just about, being good builders. It reflected a deeper belief, this idea that everything is interconnected, that everything from the smallest stone to the highest mountain vibrates with this universal energy.
And the ultimate example of that has to be the 12-angled stone in Cusco.
Oh, yeah.
This single stone, cut with 12 angles, fits perfectly within a wall.
To this day, architects and engineers are amazed by it. It speaks to their understanding of geometry, their ability to work in harmony with nature. It's just incredible.
And speaking of incredible, we have to talk about their most sacred site, Coricancha. The golden enclosure.
It's really no exaggeration. Imagine walls completely covered in gold, reflecting the sun, showing their reverence for Inti, the sun god. And inside, you would have seen representations of their entire cosmos. Incredible.
It would have been awe-inspiring, no doubt. But then the Spanish conquistadors, they arrived driven by their thirst for gold, and that's when this clash of worldviews, it's just tragic.
It's really hard to overstate that clash.
The Spanish, they were coming from this Judeo-Christian perspective, right? Gold had value. Their mission was to spread their faith. They just couldn't grasp the Inca's spiritual connection to the land, the Apu, this entire cosmological belief system.
And things went downhill pretty fast, right?
Yeah.
The lecture mentions Atahualpa, the Inca emperor.
Captured and promised freedom if he could fill a room with gold.
Can you imagine?
And you know what? The Inca, true to their word, they paid that ransom, an unbelievable amount of gold. But the Spanish,
They still executed him.
a devastating betrayal, the impact of which you can still feel today.
It makes you think about how different perspectives, they can lead to such awful outcomes. But even after that loss, that cultural upheaval, the Inca spirit, it endured.
It's really remarkable, isn't it? That connection to their heritage, to the land, to their beliefs, it ran deep. It fueled centuries of resistance.
The lecture specifically talks about Tupac Amaru II, a descendant of those Inca emperors, who actually led a huge rebellion against Spanish rule.
And this wasn't just a fight for political control. This was a spiritual uprising, a yearning for that lost justice, that harmony, that the Inca people, they still longed for.
His story, it's like so many other messianic movements throughout history, when you think about it.
Absolutely, you see parallels with figures like Joan of Arc or even the ghost dance movement among Native Americans. It's this universal longing, often born out of oppression, for a return to a better way of life, often symbolized by these revered figures from the past.
And it's incredible how much cultural identity can endure. Take the Inti Raymi, for example.
The Inca Festival of the Sun.
Exactly. Even with attempts to stop it, it survived.
The resilience of culture, the power of tradition to link people to their past, it's really quite amazing.
And speaking of connecting to the past, the rediscovery of Machu Picchu, that was huge, both for Cusco and really the world's imagination.
Rediscovery. That's such an interesting term to use, isn't it? Because it wasn't ever really lost to the indigenous people who lived there.
That's true.
But Hiram Bingham, he was an American explorer. He brought it to global attention in the early 1900s, and that changed everything.
He did. And while his expeditions were important, it does make you think, about cultural heritage. Who owns the past, right? How do we balance this scientific curiosity with cultural sensitivity? It's a big question, especially now with how fascinated we are by ancient civilizations.
It's a crucial conversation, and it's not limited to Cusco, right? It's happening at archaeological sites all over the world. How do we learn from the past while still respecting it, ensuring that it's preserved? It's tricky.
It really is a tough balance to strike. So, where does all of this leave Cusco today? The lecture describes this city that's like a tapestry of time with threads from all these different eras.
You've got these incredible Inca ruins right alongside Spanish colonial architecture. You have bustling indigenous markets, and then this whole modern tourist destination vibe layered on top. It's really something.
Cusco itself feels like this blend of history, all these different cultures and influences all in one place.
And it highlights the responsibility we all have, visitors and residents, to think about preservation, to make sure tourism, while it's important economically, doesn't end up destroying the very things that make Cusco so special.
It really makes you think about how we treat these places, doesn't it? And, going back to what we were discussing earlier about Cusco being considered the navel of the world by the Inca.
Their central point, a reflection of their unique worldview.
Right, so the lecture ends with this really thought-provoking question. If you had to choose a navel of the world today, based on everything we've learned, the global connections, cultural significance, what place would it be?
I love that question because there's no right answer, is there? It makes you think about what truly resonates with you.
Exactly. Just like the Inca, our worldviews are shaped by our own experiences, the things we value, the stories we tell ourselves about our place in the world.
It's what makes these deep dives so fascinating. We journeyed to the Andes, explored ancient myths and beliefs, grappled with complex history, and hopefully we've come away with a deeper appreciation for the power of culture and just how interconnected our world really is.
Absolutely. So to our listeners, whether you're picturing the vibrant streets of Cusco or maybe even planning a trip there someday, take a moment to consider that question. Where is your navel of the world? What stories does that place tell about your connection to the past, the present, and even the future?
What a great note to end on. Keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep seeking out those places that connect you to the richness of human experience.
Well said. And on that note, we'll say goodbye for now. Until next time, keep exploring.